What's up, everybody? Josh and Jay back with the podcast. America is blue. Unfortunately, not a not a great result today, but we still do these anyway because there is, for better or worse, a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack today during Graham Potter's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad game in his return home to the South Coast today. So, per usual, Jay, you get the first word. What's your, first thoughts today?
It's hard to figure out even where to start with this dumpster fire of a game.
E.
It begins with, as soon as I saw the starting lineups come out, I'm like, wow, it's like we're dipping into this bag of tricks and trying to whip this one out again. And it immediately brought me back to our last cast where you were like, all right, this worked. This is great. We played attacking. Not sure how this is going to fly against some of the better sides in the Premier League. And you were mainly right. I wasn't exactly thinking of Brighton when you were referring to better sides, but I think we can leave this one in the bag moving forward.
Yeah, it was tough to see, and unfortunately, when I looked at the team sheet, I said, "Oh man, we're really kind of taking a risk." I was afraid of the high competitive environment. Obviously, clearly these are open wounds, and the worst part about it is from the jump, all you hear on television is, oh, that we've never lost in the league to them. They've never beaten us. Haven't scored off of a corner. They're the only team in the league that hasn't scored off a corner. I mean, they just kept saying it. I was like, man, they're just really like willing this to life. I didn't feel great about the formation. I didn't think that Raheem Sterling and Christian Pulisic should be playing, as wingbacks in the Premier League. It's tough to ask those guys to do that type of job. And as a result, Trevor and Cucurella were both really exposed. Solly March had more room to run than anybody I've ever seen in my entire life. Not a great performance, but I was initially excited, but I was brought down to earth quite quickly.
I'm going to start off by giving some credit out to Brighton, right? They look sharp. We did what we did, as incompetent as that was. That's how we decided to approach this one. They exploited everything that we've been talking about and everything that we've been concerned about for weeks now with inexperienced or out of position, just not the right decisions as far as our wingbacks are concerned. If we are running a back three, they created overloads on those sides. We got stretched. There, our wing backs, if you want to call them that, they were completely out of position because the game plan is for them to push forward. It was not the right approach. It was poorly executed, even with the wrong approach, and we didn't change. We stuck with it for far too long.
It was that part was definitely tough to see too. But when you see that type of formation, it just and because it wasn't as though it was a wild success at the midweek point, either. Getting that W as big as it was, it wasn't the type of brand of football we'd like to see, and I just think we were definitely underestimating, ironically, the side. We were talking about, hey, this guy's gonna know this personnel across the way better than anybody, and it seemed like he just didn't have anything in the bag, any adjustments to make. And I mean, it was from the jump. I mean, Thiago Silva, right from the gate, he headed that first attempt away, and I said, geez, I really hope that is able to kind of settle everybody down, and just we dodged a bullet there, but man, we were dodging a bunch, and it could have been even worse than the scoreline indicated, for sure.
And that's what makes us so perplexing. We're not geniuses. Like, we don't know anything better than professional managers of football clubs.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know any better. We're using our best intuition to try to piece this thing together as fans. You knew that these guys were going to be coming out gangbusters. You knew that this crowd was going to be heated playing against us, given everything that we discussed on our last cast. And then you go out there with a formation and a shape and players that just there was no way that we were going to be able to withstand that. And although we hoped that they would be able to, and then settle in, start to get control of the ball, piece the thing together, there was just no opportunity to do so. We had 2 balls headed off the line within the first 5 minutes of the game.
It was unbelievable, and it was the biggest crowd in their stadium's history.
Yeah, they
So
were
I
ready
mean,
to rock. They were moving.
everybody was rocking in there for sure. And yeah, it's kind of almost disappointing to see how badly we missed the mark. It's just isn't even the bad result. It's just how bad it could have been. So the thing I wanted to also talk about in particular about, we had the Pulisic miss. We had other guys that weren't seemingly, putting away chances. We couldn't find the pass in the final third because, we were slicing through the midfield pretty easily. And once we got anything in the 18-yard box, Sterling had some, poor touches and poor ideas. Nobody seemed to have, any shots, anything that was really testing the keeper until the second half. And aside from the Pulisic miss, which I think was a little bit harsh, but definitely one that he has to finish, there was just not a lot to work with. We tried to counter punch once we went down 2-0, but we couldn't get anything to go into the half with a feeling like we belonged in the game.
Yeah, I think maybe today we break down unit by unit. It is so hard for me. None of the players played really well. I mean, there was a couple of guys who I think were at an adequate level, right? But this was just bad. And instead of really honing in and saying, it would have changed the complete complexion of the game if Pulisic hits that one in or puts it on target, we get a rebound, we get a goal. Maybe then all of a sudden momentum swings.
Sure.
I find it really unfair and very difficult to come down hard on individual performances, even as bad as some of them were, when the players aren't stupid either. Do you think that these guys went out there feeling like, all right, we have the right game plan, we have the right strategy, we're going to be able to go out there and do this? I'm sure most of these guys were like, what's going on out here? Okay, all right, let's roll it, let's see what happens. And when you have this is a team sport. It's the ultimate team sport. And when you completely screw up such an important part of your lineup in a formation that really depends on wingbacks, the impacts are felt everywhere. I'm sure everybody felt out of sorts. You had the
100%.
back line not feeling like they had appropriate outlet for the ball. They were making terrible passes. You had our midfield or defensive midfield who were potentially looking to push up when they had to cover because our wingbacks were pushed all the way up the field and there was acres of space on both sides. So, let's say, I'm sure we'll get into it. We can talk player to player, unit to unit, but this all comes back to a terrible idea, and there was just never going to be the opportunity for this to be executed well.
100%. Well, I mean, we can definitely, go unit by unit, but there's no doubt about it. It starts on the wings. And it was, both when you got 2 guys playing completely out of position, that's just a really tough ask. And back in the day, it was the reason why Hazard could just run and just do whatever he wanted is because Willian was running everywhere on the other side of the pitch to even it out. When there's no counterbalance, if you're gonna have Pooley on one side, you gotta at least have Chile or somebody else on the other. Having those 2 guys, playing those positions and who are, genuinely offensive minded guys. They want to run at people. They want to face, they want to dribble, they want to create. That is not what I want both of my wingbacks to be doing when that's not what they do normally. And, them not tracking back was the story of the game. It was impossible to watch, but what was more difficult was our lack of adjustment to it, and our lack of the ability to make some of the moves that I think you can make in game, whether it's a personnel switch or just a change of the system a little bit. Those guys can still be versatile if you give them a chance to just maybe be set up a little bit differently. but I just didn't think that anything was going well, and we didn't make any changes to try to counter.
Yeah, I mean it's the obvious area to start. Raheem Sterling has played for some of the top clubs in Europe. Right, you start off at Liverpool. Why are you there? You're a young man. Why are you there? You're there because you are an attacking threat, because you bring pace and you can cut through defenders. You can stretch the opposing team's defense. That's his game. That's what he does. That's what he gets paid handsomely to do.
Yep.
You go to Man City. This is what you do. You're playing for England. This is what you do. Same thing for Christian. You're an attacking threat. You're either a winger, you're a forward. That is your job. You've never been asked to have the awareness to deal with counters. You've never been asked to understand the spacing between you and a center defender in order to make sure that there aren't those acres of space outside where you can just get cut up, or to deal with overloads on a side or overlapping runs. This isn't their job. So of course they played terrible, because you're put into a role that you've never had to do, you've never been asked to do, nor should you be asked to do. And the injury to Reece James is not the excuse. The performance against an RB Salzburg team that, although talented, and again we were playing them away, they don't compare to the pace and the intensity of a Premier League club, particularly with the dynamics of what was going into this game. So how can you expect them to do what they are normally asked to do, or to do something that they are never asked to do and to do it well? So it was just an unfair position for them to be put in. And of course they didn't get the job done. Right? It was just a terrible idea.
I didn't like anything about it. But it's fair to talk about Brighton. The danger man, we talked about him going into the game, was obviously Mr. Trossard. He proved it right away, right off the bat, creating chances, running, making, wreaking havoc, making the back line, answer a lot of questions. His finish was amazing on his goal. His footwork was well deserved. And then getting the second goal in quick succession, like I said, when they just kept saying they haven't scored on the corner, it just felt inevitable. And
technically they still haven't. Technically, they still haven't.
I guess so, but nonetheless, you felt that coming. You just felt it coming, and then going down 3-0, all I had in my mind was, oh my God, it's Leeds. Here we go, losing 3-0 to Leeds, losing 3-0 to Brighton now. Granted it wasn't over at that point, but it felt like, because of course. Such a Chelsea game to lose, such a Chelsea way to lose it, unfortunately, and just not showing up. That's the toughest part. Giving something up at the end of the game or something like that. That's just Premier League football, but not showing up, it just seemed like the guys weren't up for the task.
We've been bamboozled a little bit, because we've had this very quick succession of games. There's been this turnaround in the Champions League, which you've all enjoyed, right? This has been great. The fact that we've won our group. Going into this, though, I mean, as soon as the draws came out, you and I hit each other up and we were like, this is great. Like, we're not going up against any of the big boys. We got a great draw. We'll be able to fly through this. The level of competition there outside of AC Milan obviously isn't great, right? These aren't world-class clubs. And we've all been so happy with what we've done in the Champions League, that and the fact that we haven't had an L yet, but our performances against Villa, it was kind of the same thing. We went with the strategy. We came out here and they were killing us. And we were lucky to come out of that game with a draw. We went up against Brentford. They were working us. It's like, what is going on here? United, wrong formation again. We had to change up. We finally started to turn the tides a little bit when we went to the back four. And now this. So leave it, we're not getting it right when we're coming out onto the pitch. That's really concerning to me as far as the prospects for the Premier League moving forward. And thankfully, we do have the World Cup break coming up. Dude, Potter's got to get back to the textbooks. He's got to start figuring things out, because We can't go into matches with the wrong strategy all the time and then have to try to figure it out on the fly. You have to go out in there with a game plan that gives you an opportunity to get something done and isn't just purely stupid. Then from there you make in-game adjustments and you start moving. But we're on our heels from the jump in these games. Would you ever think that like we would be dominated on the attack from those three clubs?
It's hard to think about.
What is that?
It's hard to think about. Well, especially with the money spent, and it is really a shame how we have been a little bit decimated back there. The loss of Fofana in particular is just a killer, and then with Reece James, the world's best, being out, those are tough things, but that's why you have a deep squad and no excuses. You got to have the next man up mentality, but you can't go into the half down 3-0 to anybody and expect a result, much less 3 points. But we showed some signs of life coming out in the second half. Obviously, the great goal by Kai. We showed a little bit of courage, a little bit of more reckless abandon, if you will, a little bit more industry. But it didn't amount to very much because it seemed to fizzle out quite quickly. We had to bring Mendy on, which is unfortunate too, because Kepa's playing so well, and Mendy definitely looked rusty. Out there, he was an easy target of the Brighton fans, for sure. But another sign of us not being able to, I think, really counterpunch and try to either put teams away or really get back into the game, because I think we had a chance to hit them back again, a couple of times after we scored the goal, and we just couldn't find the pass, just weren't neat enough, not tidy enough, and again, disappointing to see from the type of talent that we have.
Yeah, and going into the second half, I was sure we were going to switch our formation up. I thought we were going to do exactly what we did against United, because even with our injuries, and they're unfortunate, but even with them, you still have Trevor, who's been playing really well. You have Thiago Silva, who's one of the best ever. Switch to a back four. You brought Chilwell on, right? You could still play Cucurella on the other side if you want to, although he's not been good. But you could have done that, and you could have fortified the midfield. You could have had guys who were more equipped to deal with the type of pressure they were putting on us, and in the area of the field where they were applying that pressure, and still nothing. Then, yeah, we do get the goal. Connor serves up a beautiful ball. Kai does his job by knocking that one home. The reality is, though, is that in the bigger picture, I would have loved it if we would have taken that moment and built on it and gotten a result out of this, even if it was 1 point. Right? It would have showed a little bit of fortitude within the team, but I still would have been absolutely heated about what we did going into this game, knowing what we were walking into. So from a coaching and coaching matters, and
it really does.
The players need to feel that.
And composure, is one thing, but you gotta kind of have that sense of urgency. That was the thing. Like, I thought when we scored, I was like, okay, let's get the urgency. All right, guys, come on. And there didn't seem to be that. What really needs to be that desperation. That keep running your heart out. Like, if you need to get taken off, you get taken off. That's what happens. But everybody should really be chugging. My notes after, they brought on Alba, they brought on Ben. I like those changes. That actually made it, Christian was able to actually get the ball. He looked bright a couple times, looking to create drive forward. But Kova was our only bright spot. His dribbling through the midfield. I mean, he is such a beast. That guy is an animal. Like, just dribbling through the midfield. He's awesome. And he was our only sense of positivity. Kova seemed to be playing within the moment and playing, with the requisite energy and the requisite urgency. Nobody else seemed to be doing that, and that's why it was extra frustrating to watch.
He was the one guy I wrote down. He was the one guy who showed up to work today. I know everybody tried. Actually, Connor wasn't bad either. I think he was fine, but Kova, he had a bunch of driving runs. He was just steamrolling at them. He was trying to create. It felt like he was trying to carry these guys to say, all right, listen, we can figure this thing out here. Again, you can't have one or two players on a squad. Kai Havertz wasn't bad also, but if we say that there were three adequate performances out of our entire squad today, it's never going to happen, particularly given the dynamics of this game. It was just never going to happen.
100%. And I mean, and we had, more waste as well. I had, there was another opportunity on a set piece that was wasteful. Towards the end of the game, it's disappointing. Us trying to do gimmicky things with very little time left on the clock. That's not the time for these training ground, experiments. Get a ball into the box. Let's try to execute the old fashioned way. Get a head on it. Get a foot on it. Get a glance. It's anything, but just not time for the gimmicky stuff. Just felt like everything went wrong today. There's not a whole lot else to say. And then, giving up the fourth goal at the end, it was just, a deserved exclamation point for the Gulls and their fans. A little extra dirt on, Graham Potter's grave from their perspective. And they're singing a lot of songs and downing a lot of happy pints on the South Coast for sure.
The 4 goals they scored today equates to the same amount of goals they've put up in their last 5 Premier League games, 3 of which coming against Liverpool.
Is that bad?
They have not been able to score. They have not been able to function offensively since the manager change. And they drop 4 on us. And do it easily. We need to get back to the whiteboard.
I mean, 100%. It's long look in the mirror time. And we're always going to keep alluding to it. The war of attrition is really about to begin. How many internationals do we have? I mean, it's almost the entire roster when it comes down to it. So, we're sending a lot of guys away to the World Cup. There's a lot of other sides in the Premier League that maybe don't have as many guys going away. The World Cup in the middle of the season is the ultimate equalizer. It's really gonna put the league in all the top 4 spots up for grabs.
And we have to use that as an opportunity. Our coaching staff getting acclimated. There's a nice window of time there to get this ship righted. It's a good window of time for certain players to get healthy and be able to get back on the pitch, which we desperately need. And although in the past I've said, maybe the January window isn't the time to pressure into bringing in reinforcements. I mean, if we can find a smart buy to fortify our midfield, I think we seriously have to look at it. Otherwise, we're gonna be in trouble.
I 100% agree with you on that. You got anything else you wanna talk about before we head into the man of the match?
No, I think I can leave the shit show alone.
All right, perfect. Me too. It's exhausting. So we'll get into the man of the match, brought to you by All Out Fitness. At All Out Fitness, they are empowering individuals to be their best selves. Jay, who is the best version of themselves out there today on the pitch for you?
Graham Potter for Brighton. Excellent game plan.
No.
All right.
Look at you.
No.
Clever boy.
Yeah, there we go, being cute. No one on our side. I guess I have to get. I don't want to give it to anybody. Trossard. I thought he played great. He was lively. The goal was great. Footwork was nice. I hate having to give it to somebody on the opposing team, but I don't think anybody on our squad really deserves it. So
he is indeed the choice. It is Mr. Trossard. Boy, was he a problem today. And he's I think he's playing himself into a national spot too. That guy'd be pretty dangerous with De Bruyne and them. These Belgians just keep popping out of nowhere. It seems like.
Hint, satellite club. Hint.
Well, hey man,
get into Belgium.
The model is coming. So as we move past this shipwreck here, and try to sail ahead to greener pastures, we are moving on to Dynamo Zagreb at the Bridge Wednesday at 4 p.m. We can try to get back into form. The only thing I want to know from you is, are you expecting to see a lot more changes, Jay? Do you think there'll be a formation change?
I sure hope so. I mean, if he was afraid to experiment in these games, switching to a back four, you have a gimme game. Get guys out there who need some experience. Get Chukwuemeka out there. Get guys who need a little bit more playing time so that you can get more familiarized with what you have, and then rebuild your idea of what this club needs moving forward. So I'm hoping we play with a back four. I'm hoping we experiment a little bit, and I hope we give some of the younger guys in our squad some playing time so we see what they've got.
Agreed. Well, it's always good chatting with you, my friend. Hopefully, we'll have something a little bit more positive to talk about heading into next weekend. But in the meantime, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We appreciate all the support. America is indeed blue. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks.